Aspic is a bit of a strange one. This is one of those games where it feels like they crammed every single idea that they had into one single game, and then they struggled to implement any of those ideas. Aspic, of course, is a type of gelatin dish that primarily features meat, so I don't know why they named this game after that. It's actually a sequel, though we haven't seen the original game. That first game was called Lizard, and it was a pretty standard dungeon crawler, though as a Japanese RPG published in 1984, it was one of the very first ones available there. For the sequel in 1986, developer Crystalsoft, the X is supposed to be read as cross, and then that's supposed to be crystal. Crystalsoft removed the turn-based combat and replaced it with a kind of fighting game system. Every time Crystalsoft ported the game, they made significant revisions to it, tweaking the world and game systems as they went. This Disk System version is the last release, and it has the subtitle Majao no Noroi, or Curse of the Serpent King. The Serpent King is the aspect of the title, and the plot of the game is after the knight returned from his quest in the first game, he found out that it wasn't necessary to go on it in the first place, because someone picked up the princess that he was trying to cure and had taken care of her already. Except that guy only cured the princess so that she could marry Aspic. When you start the game, you're just outside of this castle, and if you go inside, you can talk to a bunch of people. Anyone you can talk to has about a 20 character limit on their dialogue, so you're not going to get a whole lot of deep conversations here. But despite that limitation, Crystalsoft tried to put in a stronger story, though 90% of it exists in the ending cutscene. Walking around outside of the castle, and you'll find two different kinds of encounters. Farmers, who you can talk to, and fighters, who you could talk to or fight. The game is divided up into roughly 4 different regions, and the area around the castle doesn't have any proper enemies. If you talk to the swordsmen, then you can recruit them to your party. You can have up to 3 party members traveling with you, and for almost the entirety of the game, they're going to be these swordsmen. Pressing select while you're walking around will bring up a menu, and the options here are Pass, which closes the menu, Tools, which allows you to use something from your inventory, Split, which will let you expel a member of your party. The usual reason to do this is because they died and you want to replace them with someone new. Then there are the 2 save functions, Memory Save and Just Save. Memory Save is an option that was already a bit out of fashion by 1988, but it is useful here. It writes the current save to RAM. In other words, if you die and choose to continue, it'll continue your previous save, and if it was a memory save, that only takes a couple of moments to bring up. However, this save goes away if you turn off the power. Choosing the option that's Save by itself writes the save game data to floppy, but the process takes longer and it might involve you flipping the disk depending on where you're at in the game. Once you leave the human lands, then you can start having random encounters with monsters. If you head south to the Water Kingdom when you set out, the monsters you'll find there are much easier than the ones in the Desert Kingdom to the west, and the final region of the game isn't accessible yet. Whenever you encounter anybody in this game, person or monster, you're given 3 options: fight, talk, or run away. If you choose to fight, and you have encountered something that you can fight, then combat begins. First you have to choose which member of your party will fight, and then you get a side view of the action. Here, hitting A will swing your sword, B will cast a spell if you have magic, and up will make you jump. Magic costs 3 magic points, and only the hero gets magic. There's only one spell, a lightning wave that shoots out straight across the screen. It has a useful side effect that it also stops enemy spells. You start with no magic, and that's a major problem because it costs magic points to heal. You don't cast healing spells, instead you have to find one of these pools in the human land, and when you walk on it, 2 magic points go away, and you get back some health. To get those magic points, you have to defeat an enemy that has magic, and whatever magic they haven't used gets sucked up into your hero. Combat is a bit of a mess. A lot of it comes down to which side can pin the other one down first. Enemies can run away from combat, which of course means you don't get anything all for that battle. And if you haven't tried and failed to run away, you can try to run away by pressing against the left-hand side of the screen. You can also swap out who you're fighting with. That can be useful because whoever gets the killing blow also gets 50% of the experience. So a useful plan, especially when you're starting out, is to have your meat shields beat on some enemies, and then when they get weak, switch back to the hero to finish them off. You don't really level up in this game, or change equipment. You get stronger by earning 255 experience. Get any more and it rolls back over to 0, and your attack power goes up by 1 point. The only thing you can get from combat is magic and experience, no money. And that becomes a problem because money is the other way that you progress and heal, but not by buying items. Instead, you have to go to one of 2 temples that are located in the human lands, and there are priests inside that you can pay 10 gold to, and they'll raise your maximum HP or maximum MP, and in the process of doing that, they will refill it. You can also repay to revive one of your followers, but unless you've spent a lot of time leveling them up, it's probably better to just dump them and get someone new. The only way to get money in Aspic is to collect treasure chests, and treasure chests are only found in dungeons. Dungeons are explored from a first-person perspective, and you'll notice that you can spot enemies as you walk around them, though I had absolutely no luck dodging any of them. One strange quirk of the dungeons is that they have no stairs. Instead, you'll find holes in the floors and ceilings. If you're standing on top of a hole, then you have about half a second before you fall through it. Don't worry, there's no fall damage. If there's a hole in the ceiling above you, then you can hit the A button to jump up, and then fall right back down unless you move. It is one of the strangest ways of navigating a dungeon that I think I've ever seen. There is a way to cheat the combat in the game. With a second player controller, you have some measure of control over the enemies. It's not total. It's more like the second player's inputs overlap with the automatic AI inputs. That can still make combat a lot easier for you when you're starting out. And that's the way the game works out. You have to explore the dungeons to get those starting resources that you need, but going through dungeons is extremely dangerous. You will need to rely on that memory save function a lot to get over that starting hump. It's also going to take you a long time to grind up your attack stat. If you don't, the later enemies are just going to chew through you. The few Japanese players who know about Aspic all seem to despise it. People seem to remember it for 2 things: being a top-tier bad game, and the twist ending. I found Aspic to be one of those games that's fascinatingly bad. You'll have to have a ton of patience if you want to try it out. Everything is slow and pokey. You could easily spend 10 minutes having random encounters with farmers before you find a team to recruit. And honestly, the dungeon design is not very good. So even if you're a fan of dungeon crawlers, you're not getting what you want out of this game. Aspic just doesn't work. But it doesn't work in a way that winds up being very memorable.